Hey there, how's it going? davidinark here, and there has been a major update to BeamNG Drive. That's right, we're talking 0.27, and this thing is massive. Now, I'm going to talk about all of the different updates, changes, what have you, reading straight from the dev blog. The video itself is going to cover many of these things, but obviously not all of them. And I say obviously, you may not be aware, you may not know, but I'm telling you, this is a massive update. So many changes, so many cool things. Let's jump straight into it. First and foremost, we've got a slew of brand new vehicles. First up, the SPDone Kicker. This is a new extreme off-road desert race truck featuring a fully custom tube frame chassis, long travel suspension, and massive power. That's right, this thing is powered by either the 5.7 liter or 6.5 liter V8, both torn from the beastly Bruckle Bastion, my default vehicle, by the way. Anyway, advanced triple bypass shock absorbers on all four corners. And those of you that are into cars, into trucks, into racing, especially off-road, that means a whole lot to you. I don't know what it means. Anyway, several versatile variants. The TT1 Unlimited, all the power you could ever need, so long as you can keep it directed. The TT2 Spec is a little more subdued. This less powerful configuration lets those new to desert racing get a feel for these machines. And then there's the ST2 Stadium. This one is designed more for the short course racing and jumps rather than skipping over desert whoops. This configuration offers a very different style of driving. Then we've got the SP Rock Basher. That's right, man. This is a new mid-engine rock crawler / race truck hybrid machine with incredible off-road ability. This is powered by the venerable GamerGull V8, available in 4.5 liter and 6.9 liter variations. We've got three main configurations here. The rock crawler, designed for supreme slow speed crawling over any obstacle, featuring a solid front axle and massive torque. The rock bouncer, it's a rock crawler meets high speed. There's no technical route picking for this nitrous injected animal. Just mash the gas pedal and cross your fingers. The rock racer features independent front suspension, front portal hubs, and the right gearing to allow both high-speed desert racing and low-speed rock crawling. This is a jack of all trades of off-road racing, but we are not even close to being done. Next, we have the AutoBello Auto Buggy. Let's say that 3 times fast. Okay. The Auto Buggy configurations have a custom tube frame chassis, lightweight bodies, and long travel suspension sporting bypass shock absorbers like we talked about earlier. The Class 5 Spec is a lower powered configuration featuring the Piccolina's original flat 4 engine, providing an easygoing approach to desert racing. The Unlimited Class 5, the reins are off. The air-cooled engine has been swapped out for a powerful 2.5 liter water-cooled twin-cam engine from the Hirochi SBR, and the body stripped away in place of fiberglass panels. Then we've got the Baja Extreme. No rules, no regs. That's right, twin-turbo power with all the stops pulled out. And the next vehicle, the AutoBello Stambeco. This is a new utilitarian off-road vehicle, features a quirky swing axle suspension, portal hubs, as well as 4x4 and 6x6 drivetrain variations. It's available in early configurations with an air-cooled gasoline 6-cylinder engine or modernized configurations with a turbocharged 6-cylinder diesel engine. The first vehicle in the game to feature the tire pressure management system. It allows on-the-fly tire pressure adjustments. Be sure to be looking for more vehicles to have that in the future for sure. There are 3 main body styles: van, pickup, and covered pickup. There are 20 configurations to choose from in the game. There are military, civilian, police, ambulance, and fire service, as well as a custom racing version. Oh, did I mention there were some vehicles new in the game? Yeah, how about the next newest vehicle, the FPU Wydra. This is a new 8-wheel drive skid steer amphibious ATV. There are 7 unique configurations that come with the game. Fiberglass tub chassis holding a tiny 800cc inline 3 engine with the optional turbocharger, and 2 configurations featuring a big wheel 4x4 conversion kit allowing for crossing some of the most fearsome wetland terrain. There are also updates to various other vehicles in the game. The Bastion fixed the interior mirror angle. Some other vehicles got updates. The GamerGull D series got an off-road ambulance configuration. If you know me in ambulances, we will be checking that out in the near future. I love ambulances in the game. Technically speaking, I love crashing ambulances in the game. I digress. Anyway, again, every vehicle has got some updates. The Ibishu Hopper, there's now a Hopper Rock Racer config. There's also the Gecko config. It's got giant tires and it's slow, but it can climb over any obstacle. Dry Van Trailer got an off-road team configuration and some other changes to vehicles as well. Some common things, lights have been updated, some new wheels have been added, and some tires have been added. The big news for the game, of course, not just adding in the vehicles, but the new map, Johnson Valley. And let me tell you, there's really just no good way to say this, but when the BeamNG devs pull out the Johnson, it's huge. 10 square kilometers in size. We're talking Randy Johnson. All right, that's how big this thing is. Anyway, it is designed mainly for hard off-road vehicles. It includes an abundance of rock crawling paths, dirt trails, dunes. Heck, there's a gas station in the game where you can actually refuel your vehicle now. That is phenomenal. There were changes to other maps as well. Some minor mesh fixes and some gap fixes, but they did do a couple of things in the West Coast USA. One, they added this very, very cool quarry site with equipment. There's even a mission that is centered in and around that, so I'm sure that it's a race in and around the quarry. So cool. They also updated the movie studio zone. You got to check this out. Definitely taking, at least in my opinion, some inspiration from another West Coast themed video game in which there is a movie lot. Can we say it that way? So anyway, but just check this out. Look at the different settings in here, different things. Very, very cool. There's also an updated and expanded dockyard warehouse, so you want to check that out. Moving on to missions. There are 2 new mission types in the game. One is a collection mission type, so you will collect markers in a given area, and there are several modes available for that. There's also the evade mission type, and I'm really looking forward to this. This is where you evade the police and arrive at your secret hideout. Right now, there are 2 missions available from the free roam area. One is on Italy, and one is in East Coast. Speaking of missions, there are 31 new missions added to this update. I'm telling you, man, this update is massive. It's absolutely huge. They've added so much, changed some things they needed to change. The devs are just freaking phenomenal. But anyway, 31 new missions. Johnson Valley has 20 new missions alone. Other areas have missions added to them. They also converted 23 existing time trials into missions. And there are also some other mission type changes, mainly just some tweaks. For example, the AI race/chase, various AI improvements. Crawl now has a mode where you don't have to worry about the points. And there are some other factors involved with that as well. Input and force feedback, one of the coolest things that I think, and one of the things that many of us that have been playing for a long time have been clamoring for, is an update to how the F7 key works. They changed the behavior of the F7 vehicle transport, so now it'll put the vehicle at the position and the direction of the camera, and it does not reset the damage. So basically, if you free cam to a place and you drop your vehicle right there, whatever condition it's currently in, and whatever direction you happen to be having the camera facing, that's the way the vehicle drops in. Hallelujah. I'm just saying, I've been wanting this forever, man. I'm so glad finally you can spawn stuff in the direction that the camera is facing. I'm making a big deal out of this, and I know a lot of folks are like, dude, it's not that big a deal. For me and for a lot of players, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. That way we don't have to keep spinning stuff around and moving the camera and jumping into the world editor in order to just turn a vehicle around. That is awesome stuff. They added some default configurations for various steering wheels and shifters. Made some changes for some keyboard folks as well. If you're a keyboard user, the steering wheel position will now be maintained until the vehicle moves, and it will auto-center as usual when you are moving. This is especially helpful during parking, rock crawling, and other kinds of low-speed driving, as well as for taking cooler screenshots in photo mode. You can disable this action if you want to by going into the gameplay menu and fixing things there. I'm just going to skip down through some of these. Well, I'll tell you, we'll just read them, right? Okay. Improve the behavior of the steering wheel soft lock forces, improve throttle controllability for most gamepads, added helpful hints in logs when a modder develops a vehicle with vehicle-specific input events. All of the A function, D function, and other similar bindings are finally removed. Their deprecation warning has been visible since 2015. Any modders still utilizing the old system will be shown an error log with instructions on how to proceed. Added a log to record instances of where a thruster is unable to be activated because it is tied to an invalid signal. Fixed an issue that caused force feedback smoothing to not apply when the configuration was manually edited using a text editor instead of the in-game menus. Fixed the default throttle binding for the high-tech Aurora 9 RC controllers, and updated blocked actions for many missions. As far as vehicles systems go, there's been a major update to the way the V key works. Previously, you could pretty much just tap the V key and it would start the car. In certain vehicles right now, and ultimately I'm assuming in all of the vehicles to come eventually, V has been changed. So at this point, you can tap the V key and it will cycle through the off mode so that the ignition is completely off. Then if you tap it once, it'll put it into accessory mode. 2 is on and 3 is the starter active. So you can cycle through those. If you hold V, then that will start the engine. In-vehicle screens react to ignition level changes dynamically. There's been improved general UI messages about ignition levels and engine states. EVs now properly react to ignition levels as well. In arcade mode, the car will automatically enter the correct state to drive away if asked to do so. Improved stall warning and automatic restarts. Arcade mode will select a matching gear when automatically starting an engine, and there is an improved parking brake usage during the engine start, for example, to prevent the car from rolling downhill. Some other changes. Completely revamped EV lock control logic. The brake pedal will use only regenerative braking at first, until either the vehicle slows down too far or the regenerative brakes can't provide enough braking power on their own. The blending of these braking methods, regenerative brakes and friction brakes, has been improved so that the brake pedal feels more like a gas-powered vehicle. They added a new section to the pie menu under powertrain to adjust how strong the braking is when lifting off of the throttle, that is, without pressing the brakes. They added a one-pedal driving feature when the regenerative braking strength is at its highest level. This feature allows the car to come to a complete stop without needing to touch the brake pedal. The brakes are held automatically until the throttle pedal is pressed again. Yeah, that's easy for me to say. All right, implemented dynamic tire pressure management system. We talked a little bit about that earlier, but this is where you can automatically equalize pressure within the wheels of an axle. Axles can be connected to the air source, either individually or multiple at once. The air pressure of connected axles can be raised or lowered, so you can actually increase or decrease the tire pressure right there in the vehicle. Very cool stuff. They reduced the animation speed of automatic shifters, improved shift behavior of manual transmissions when overriding the clutch and locking the wheels. Added a new manual close latch type to advanced couplers for latches that do not latch automatically. Additional controls implemented for drive modes, powertrain device control, custom electric values, radial menu entries, and simple UI button support. They implemented the ability to control multiple powertrain device states together via the drive modes. For example, a combined rear differential lock for 2 rear axles. Improve the DCT downshift behavior under heavy braking, automatically reduce maximum upshift RPM based on potentially installed rev limiter. They improved the unicycle/player vehicle transient stopping behavior, fixed beacon spin controller to work with multiple independent lights, and they added support for vehicles that steer via differential braking. They made some powertrain updates, added support for centrifugal clutches. Cold engine takes longer time to start than a warm engine. They fixed ABS not working on non-wheel rotators with brakes, updated the energy storage physics constants to be a little more precise, fixed differentials and shafts not checking for allowed modes when changing modes via code. Enabled non-wheel rotators with brakes to have brake thermals, made water cooling coefficient of brakes adjustable to allow for non-submersible brakes. They added a guard against wrongly configured electric radiator fan settings. Some gameplay updates, reloading a vehicle by using Control R after the user changes the vehicle visibility manually using the increase-decrease mesh visibility key bindings will retain the previous transparency. There was an issue before where basically when you hit Control R, it would reset the transparency to like no transparency, meaning that you can't see through it at all. Now it retains that transparency. Very cool. Again, as I mentioned earlier, added fuel stations in the free roam to the West Coast USA and to Johnson Valley. You stop next to a fuel pump, click on the fueling prompt, and your vehicle will get refueled completely. Been a lot of comments about that. Hopefully they'll implement a system that's more like American Truck Simulator or Euro Truck Simulator, where when you pull up to the gas station, you actually have to hold a key, and as you hold the key you're fueling, so you can actually control when you want to stop fueling. By the way, the fuel pump feature is only available if the show mission markers is enabled. So if you've turned those off because you don't like seeing the numbers everywhere, you want to make sure you go turn those back on under the user interface options menu. They added a bunch more Beam debug modes and also fixed the UI displaying the wrong mode for deform and brake groups. They updated the drop player at camera action so that it keeps all the damage. We talked about that with the F7. Added a new input action, teleport to the last road. Recovering on top of water will put the vehicle on the water surface now, so that's going to be kind of cool and fun to play with. Improved recovering so that it should never put the vehicle under the terrain. We'll see about that. The devs must watch a lot of us YouTubers that play, because we do a lot of crazy stuff. Anyway, any safe teleports will now always fix broken vehicle meshes. The overview map now remembers the camera position when going from FreeCam to the map. Some UI changes, added universal latch open-close control in the pie menu, added cruise control interaction in the pie menu, added dually and hydraulic pump icons to the powertrain debug app, revamped how the simple powertrain control buttons are created. Now they are sent from the vehicle to the app. The powertrain UI app start and stop button is now visible from the cockpit by default, so people can control differential and other functionality regardless of the chosen camera. Also improved pedals UI app. Its numeric rounding is smarter, only displaying 0 and 100% when the pedals are at the very limits of travel. The visuals will highlight those cases as well, helping to notice a misconfigured dead zone. Also added a force feedback clipping indicator in the steering UI app. And speaking of force feedback, there's now a tips tab, a tips screen that pops up in order to educate people on safer usage of steering wheels. Some other things in here, there's some helpful tips on the options force feedback tab. Again, helping to guide helping to guide users to properly configure the drivers and physical switches. Some minor cleanup and optimizations to the force feedback menu. Improved the bottom buttons of Control-W Parts Manager and tuning menu to avoid accidental clicking on the wrong one and losing all your changes. Improved the FPS limiter label and fixed some related UI coloring issues. Again, there are some other changes in here. I'm not going to go through every single one of these. There is a new police info app, useful for free roam and for police evasion missions. Looking forward to playing with that. That won't be in this video, but we'll definitely take a look at that in a future video. Looking down through here, lots of background work, including building a foundation and a set of components for the transition to the new UI framework. So it's interesting to me how the UI has changed over the years, and they continue to improve it. So that is awesome as well. They also improved audio stuff. There's an improved interior sound, which is great. But then there's also, there's new sounds for race handbrakes. They added new impact sounds for non-vehicle props, such as the steel barrel, the ball, sawhorse barrier, wood crate, the wood planks, the gate. Added some ambiances and reverb zones for Johnson Valley, among some other audio updates. They improved the bloom method so that the lighting in the game is much more realistic and much more visually appearing. So you can check that out as well. Particles emitted by vehicles, such as dust, smoke, fire, dirt, are now correctly affected by wind physics. And I didn't really notice that when I was playing. I wasn't really looking for it. But when I was initially playing, I should say. But when I jumped up into the car jump arena and I moved myself forward, and when I stopped, I realized that the smoke was still blowing in the direction the wind was blowing. I was just like, wait a minute, is this new? Yes, it is. So, all right. There's also a new option in replay for enable lossy compression. So that allows users to disable compression of replay files. Disabling compression will significantly increase the replay file sizes, but will also eliminate noticeable jitter in the node positions. This issue was most visible at high speeds while in cockpit view and is unrelated to the type of jitter suffered by loose parts. Okay, so again, if you use the replay tool, and I'm sure you've seen where a vehicle kind of explodes and there are parts that are kind of bouncing around all over the screen. This does not fix that. Okay, so that still isn't fixed yet. I'm sure it will be at some point, but this fixes jitter. Again, as it says, especially in the cockpit view, where you are traveling at a high speed and you're seeing weird things happening on the screen in a replay that didn't necessarily happen in the game. It's kind of hard to explain, but if you use the replay tool, you know what I'm talking about, or hopefully you do. Anyway, in the mod manager, they added support for zip64, meaning that mods bigger than 4 gigs packed or using files bigger than 4 gigs will now properly mount. There's a scenario where they fixed an issue where the suspect would do a U-turn at the bridge on East Coast Chase 4. They also made waypoint markers, the colors sharper to improve their visibility. Made some changes to AI, some AI chase fixes, optimized AI memory usage, refactored AI lane logic, although I will tell you that the traffic and AI on Johnson Valley is insane, like for no reason at all. They just cross into your lane. Don't know what that's about, but when you're going 150 miles an hour and all of a sudden oncoming traffic decides to come into your lane, it's a problem, which is funny because the next thing they talk about is traffic, and it improved police spawning logic and roadblock placing logic, improved and optimized parked vehicles spawning logic, added some parallel parking spots, and some more general parking spots for some maps. And this is one of those things I noticed on the Johnson map. I'm driving along and all of a sudden, like, a car just pulls off the side of the road, and I'm like, what is he doing? Well, is that normal? And yes it is. In the world editor, they added a lasso selection for the forest editor, added snap to grid on drag from the asset browser, a bunch of other changes to the world editor. You definitely want to check the dev blog. I'll have a link to it, of course, in the description. Change some things with the flow graph, some things with the game engine overall, an update to the vehicle editor as they added a flex mesh debug app. So it allows you to visualize vertices per flex mesh. It also allows you to see the relationship between nodes and vertices. And there's also a JBeam picker. So now you can pick nodes and beams with the current node beam debug mode, Control M, Control B. Very cool stuff for those that are into modding cars. And speaking of, they made a couple of updates to JBeam and also made some changes to the Lua scripting. I mean, this thing is absolutely massive, and I know a bunch of it was me just rambling on, reading what was in the dev blog, but hopefully the on-screen stuff has been entertaining for you. In any case, we will be doing multiple videos regarding the 0.27 update for sure. Just wanted to get this out here real quick. Got a lot of stuff going on, work-wise, family-wise, which is why my videos have been very sporadic. So as I'm able to kick out videos, then we'll get that. And hopefully I can also come up with a more succinct schedule as we go on. Fortunately, I work in education, and so I'm off for a couple of weeks during Christmas break. So hopefully that'll lend itself to some more video recording as well. In any case, thank you so much for checking out what's been going on here with the update 0.27. Special thanks, as always, to Hero of God, GamerGull, LosWilko, 7220 Gamer, the Maestro of Madness, and ItHasToBeDone for supporting the channel on Patreon and through channel memberships. I appreciate it so much. Even if you can't support the channel that way, I love the fact that you are here watching, checking it out. It means a whole lot to me. I'm davidinark. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.